So, just coming off of the Independence Day weekend, and I drove up to San Francisco with my buddy James. He and I drove up, and we stayed with my buddy Mike Murnane right there in the city, and we spent the whole weekend just doing whatever. We watched movies, we played frisbee, we went into the park and on the beach, and we sipped coffee, and we cruised around North Beach, and we had so much fun. One day, we went to the East Bay, to Berkeley, and Mike helped a friend over at Tippett Studios. We were helping do a little practical effect for a movie, and so they needed some extra hands, and so we pitched in to just help and keep everything moving. And they were really nice. Actually, Phil Tippett showed up for the shoot and sort of insisted that production buy us all lunch, and that was amazing. Because what ended up happening was we sat at this big long table at this big Mexican restaurant about a couple blocks away from Tippett Studios, and I sat right across from Phil. And Phil's a really nice guy. He seems like a very sort of kind of a philosophical person. And he was talking about how he was trying to integrate AI into his art practice. And, he mentioned learning a lot from his experience on Jurassic, when everything went from practical effects to CG effects, and how he learned from that to sort of embrace new tools, new technologies, and not fight it. And I was fascinated with what he was taught. The whole time, I literally wanted to just go, dude, thank you. Like in my mind, I was just like, super nervous, intimidated. When you're confronted with a real idol, and you only have this little brief moment, it's like a pressure builds. And you kind of force, I don't know, I was sort of forcing any and all ideas through this tiny orifice. And I ended up just sort of observing the situation. But I mean, what I wanted to say to him was vast, unending, vast amounts of questions, and I really wanted to impart how much I loved his film. I did actually say I loved Mad God, and that I saw it in the theater 3 times in a row. And I saw it with a big group of creative stop-motion heads here in LA, and after we saw his film, we all kind of poured out onto the sidewalk and just chatted and talked about Mad God for like almost 2 hours. And it was late, and we all probably had somewhere else to be, but we just stood there in front of the theater because we needed to continue to discuss that movie and how it impacted us. And I think he was intrigued to hear that. I think any artist that spends that much time on something that personal for that long, I mean, that movie just about killed him. He even said so. I think it took quite a toll on him, and I think it was really, really, really important for him to do that, to make that. And because, he's a commercial artist that is undeniably dope. But there's the fine art side where, artists, in order to truly be artists, have to not answer to some sort of industrial sized corporate committee. Artists need to be artists, and they need to follow their muse and express what's in them without any censorship. And I think, when he went on that journey to make Mad God, I think it was like he was chasing a feeling and a deep, deep, deep need. And it really affects. It affected me when I saw the film. I was deeply affected and moved by what I saw, and I want to see that film again, and I want to see it again. I want to see it. I don't know, probably 6 more times this year, if it comes back to the theaters. I'd like to see it on the big screen. But I didn't know exactly how to kind of say to him how important that was. So I didn't really try to, but I thought it was really sweet that, his company fed us, even though, we didn't really do much. It was fun walking around the studio. Studio that I think he opened in the early 80s for RoboCop 2. If the bones of that building could talk, my God, the stories that place would tell. We saw everything. He keeps a tidy space, but it's chock full of art. He had puppets on display from just about everything. I recognized things from tests he had done and movies, and there's like the big life-size RoboCop thing, a giant robot. T9, I don't know. It's got some cool numbers. He's got Jurassic Park test dinosaurs. He's got Mad God puppets. He's got robots. I think he did a VR test that I recognize some stuff from. Those like kind of shit puppets, those humanoids that look like they're made out of animal dung. Those like kind of corpuscly looking. Oh God, Mad God was just chock full of weird creatures that are part human, part bird, part dinosaur, part slug, part worm. I don't know what, but they serve a deep sort of symbolic purpose. When you descend that far into the depth of your soul, some strange stuff lives down there. And so that was special. That was a really special trip to the Bay Area. And it was like soul nourishment. It was like deeply important. And I feel very, very fortunate to know Mike Murnane, to know James Cotner. The three of us were theater buddies back, 20, 30 years ago. In San Francisco, we all, did plays together. And so it was, it was fun to kind of get together in our mid-50s and just do the same kinds of shit we used to do back in the day. Like go see a movie, play Frisbee, eat a nice meal, walk on the beach, just sort of go, when you have free time and you just sort of go where you're moved to go. Go get a burrito in the Mission, or sit out on the Dolores Park, or that little strip of grass in North Beach. Go visit the Golden Gate Bridge or Coit Tower, or watch the fog roll in along the sunset. Go on a hike, through those beautiful sort of like, I don't know, sycamore trees, and say hi to all the cute people. There's so many cultures and age groups, and we encounter so many dogs, people walking dogs. Great. That city has just good bone structure, and it has a real soulful quality to it. I think it became very difficult to live there because it became so expensive. But the real soul daddies have hung tough. And the pendulum swings in all directions, and when it starts to kind of swing back towards deep, soulful, artistic people that are held together with this obvious bond of love. And you go to a city like San Francisco in the middle of summer, and it's just this air-conditioned, it's cool, naturally cooled by this belt of fog that rolls in. And I was not dressed for it. I was like, Southern California in the summer is boiling. It's like 100 degrees. And James was coming from Arizona, where I was like in the teens. I was like 118, like the day before he came. And there we were with our, flannels and our polar fleece on, trying to brave this freezing cold fog that just rolls in. The whole city is just like this, like charcoal gray, and you go in, and it just makes going to the movies so fun. He had a little movie theater near his house called the 4-Star, and they turned it into sort of this art house cinema experience that had a gallery in the front, record store. It was just so cool, like homemade popcorn with real butter on it. And just, buy some vinyl, buy a t-shirt, check out some art, take in a movie. We saw Alien there, the original Ridley Scott Alien movie. It was fucking awesome. Independence Day should be spent watching independent movies, right?